I feel like this whole thing is a highway robbery in the first degree.
To the point where I said, well, this week I'm just going to eat peanut butter and jelly so I can make sure they have their lights on.
WTOC Investigates first told you on the News at 5 that Georgia Power is making skyrocketing profits after raising residential rates by 14% just since 2022, while the need for energy assistance has skyrocketed, though, as well.
So how is the company allowed to make this amount of money while some customers are struggling to pay the bills? WTOC investigative reporter Shay Schrader joins us now live in the studio.
Shay, you've been digging into this. What have you found out?
Yeah, so Mike, Dawn, anytime Georgia Power raises its rates, it first has to get permission from the Public Service Commission, which is made up of 5 people who are elected to the position. Currently, 5 Republicans sit on it. I spoke with Tim Echols, who represents Chatham County, about the rate increases and the role of politics in people's power bills. 2024, Georgia Power made an astonishing $2.5 billion in profit. That's up $730 million since rates started going up in 2022.
It's almost put me in the poorhouse. Really, it is.
But the rates didn't just start going up. Georgia Power is what's known as a regulated monopoly. That means they're the only power provider millions of Georgians have access to. Because they're a monopoly and a private company, the state of Georgia has what's known as the Public Service Commission to oversee Georgia Power and protect their customers. In 2022, Georgia Power asked to increase their rates to cover infrastructure expenses and their rising costs. The PSC approved it. What was the idea behind letting Georgia Power raise those residential rates?
We waited till after the pandemic and we spread a rate increase out over 3 years. That was probably a mistake. We probably should have just did it all in one whack. We were trying to have mercy, but I think in some ways that backfired.
Commissioner Tim Echols voted in favor of the rate increase that was followed by a 40% profit increase for Georgia Power. Why should Georgia Power customers be struggling and rates rising when Georgia Power is making such astonishing profit margins?
Well, they're selling more power, so they are going to make more profit. And as the company grows, they'll continue to make more profit because it's just getting bigger and bigger the more power that they are producing and selling.
Georgia Power has a unique agreement with the Public Service Commission. They're allowed a roughly 12% profit margin. 70% of what's made beyond that has to go back into their regulatory assets. 10% is to be refunded to customers, and 20% of it the company gets to keep. Terry Tolbert is the executive director of the Economic Opportunity Authority in Chatham County. The organization runs an energy assistance program, and he's spoken before the PSC in the past. Do you think that the Public Service Commission is acting in the best interest of the people of Georgia?
I would say that the Public Service Commission makes decisions what they think is in the best interest of the state of Georgia for large corporations.
Though candidates for the PSC are not allowed to accept donations from the companies they regulate, they can accept donations from people who work for those companies. Campaign finance records show Echols received at least $30,000 from people associated with utility companies in the 2022 election cycle. Do you think it's appropriate to be taking donations from folks that work directly with the companies that you're tasked with regulating?
You know, my first 2 elections, I didn't take any money from Georgia Power employees, their attorneys, but I was still criticized for taking solar money and money from companies that made batteries and other things. So I think I've resolved myself that I'm going to be criticized no matter what.
The 2022 election never ended up happening due to legal challenges against the way PSC commissioners are elected. Though they do represent districts, the elections are held statewide. Democratic State Senator Derek Mallow believes this dilutes the purpose of the PSC and supported a bill this legislative session that would have reestablished the Consumer Utility Council, which is legal advocacy for consumers in front of the PSC, a body that's already supposed to represent consumer interests.
It should be a nonpartisan issue, but it becomes very partisan in nature. And that partisanship is that they are elected in districts, but we're voting on people statewide. The communities are vastly different, so our voices should be heard in that way. And I think that's a huge challenge from the current structure of the PSC.
The bill didn't make it to a vote. Legal challenges to the way the PSC is elected ultimately failed, and commissioners are still elected statewide.
There's even an election this November, including Eccles' seat. Georgia Power will also go in front of the Public Service Commission again this year to discuss their business needs, including potential rate increases. I asked Eccles about that, and he told me that he just can't raise rates on customers again this year. Shay Schrader, WTOC Investigates.